I'll get right into the topic of today's discussion. Good morning. Most of you know me, but my name's Cris Karson. I'm a partner at Metro City Property Group, the president of the commercial division, and I'm here to talk to you today about zoning. Um, there's a lot of obviously wonderful things that we can do with zoning, and a lot of ways that not only do we have to understand zoning to represent our clients properly, but there's a lot of opportunities that we can create through the understanding of zoning, and conversely, the value that we can actually create and bring to the table when we understand opportunities and bring them together for ourselves or our clients. Um, so I'll jump right into it. As always, feel free to stop me at any time, jump in. I encourage discussion, and I'll just get rolling. Um, Most of you have an obvious understanding of some understanding of zoning. Many of you have been with me for a while, and we've talked about the subject in length, and you've got your own understanding of it. But my hope is to deepen your understanding and help you uh, become more successful real estate practitioners. I don't know if that's the right word, but here we go. So zoning, and what is it? In a simple definition, zoning are rules that control how land can be used. These are most often municipal rules and regulations. Every property that we encounter has a zone and a set of rules that define it and what we can do on it, for the purposes of planning, uh, safety, infrastructure, community design. These are all um, relevant topics that are defined by a property's zone. It's why the zoning exists. Um, the zone and how a municipality treats a property, you know, it exists specifically for those reasons, what people can plan to do with it, and how it's utilized. Um, Zoning applies obviously to the land and not the user. The zone runs with the land, and um, when a user changes hands, or sells a property, obviously that zone stays with the property. There's some major categories of zoning. There's some subcategories as well, but the major categories are residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, rural, and mixed use. There's a host of many other zoning codes and categories within those, but most of the land will fall within those major categories. There's some key terms that we should understand, um, and these key terms are often what we're looking to find out about a zone when it comes time to understanding a property, and what it can be used for. So permitted uses is one of the major keys of a zone, and what is permitted to be done, and how the land can be used. There's in commercial, you see a lot of commercial main streets with a whole host of permitted uses, from retail, office, residential. There's all sorts of in a mixed use main street commercial property, if you will. There's many permitted uses. It can define. There might be 20 or 30 different permitted uses, and uh, the zone obviously uh, defines those within it. When we go and look at the bylaw for a zone, we look at those permitted uses, and it's got a list of what is acceptable to the municipality for that to be used for. There's accessory uses, So there can be a main use, but as an accessory use to the property, you can do something else with it, and it might be conditional upon the main use. So let's say you're in a rural area and the main permitted use is residential, but as an accessory use, you can. So that main residential would be, let's say, your home, but as an accessory use, it could be a home-based business. But the home-based business might be contingent on you actually living in the home, and because its primary permitted use is residential, secondary use is home-based business. Therefore, you have to actually be living in the home in order for the secondary use of the home-based business to be valid and permitted under the zone. So that doesn't mean you can turn an entire house into a business. It's an accessory use to the main permitted use, so the business would have to be secondary, and often the zone will define how much space you can use for this secondary accessory use and so forth. Um, Zone will also define things like setbacks, how far a building can be placed, or how close, rather, a building can be placed to a property line. You'll have different front yard, side yard, rear yard setbacks, and they will be defined within the fabric of the zone and the zoning provisions, which are basically the bylaw of a municipality, the zoning bylaws. Those bylaws will outline lot coverage, meaning what percentage of the lot you can cover with hardscape, whether it's your primary building, secondary building like garages, sheds, sometimes things like pools are categorized as hardscape, and they take up a certain percentage of your lot coverage. There will be height restrictions that are defined in the zone, and that's how tall of a building that you can build. These are all density. Density is another matrix, if you will, that is defined within the zone, and these are all quantifiable restrictions that are placed on the zone that will help us determine what can be done with with a property, how large of a building can be built there, what the setbacks are, where the building will have to be oriented, and whether or not you're working on acquiring a piece of land for a client, or selling a piece of land, or acquiring an existing uh, building on a piece of land. These are all very relevant. If you've got an existing building and you see that it's built right up next to the property line, and you check the zone, and the zone setbacks are much farther than what the building is to the property line, you may very well have an illegal, non-conforming um, use on your hand. Not necessarily encroachment. The building could still be on the subject property, but it may be illegal and has been placed there, and maybe it slipped through the cracks from some type of um, approvals or occupancy permits, or maybe that's a red flag to tell you, hey, I better check and see, if this is a legal unit, and maybe somebody's put an addition onto a property without approvals, and that's a flag for you to, you know, raise with you or your clients, and understand that we're putting the right, um, we're purchasing the right properties without issues. That's, I guess, talk about how zoning affects the deals. That's, that first and foremost, I guess. What the zone is what the potential will be. So if properties got maybe potential for more density, is a really big topic right now, certainly in Ottawa, but this applies to all these zones apply to every municipality, whatever. We're in Canada here, but whether any of the major countries in the world will have very well defined zones in their municipalities and cities, even the rural areas. Any type of organized communities will have these zones. But density is a very big topic right now. I know that Ottawa has recently changed all of their zones. Every zone in the city of Ottawa has a new zoning code. They've changed a lot of the densities that are allowable in the different zones, and they're trying to promote density within the core, try to promote walkable communities, mixed use where people don't have to drive; they can work and shop close to where they live. So these zones are important to pay attention to the potential of what could be. That you might have a single family home in a neighborhood that now has higher allowable density. You might be able to put 3, 5, 10 units on this one property that used to be a single family. So that's important to understand the value. And if you've got a client that's looking for upside and potential, it's important that you're able to identify these zones and different potential scenarios that you can do to change the use or increase the density, ultimately creating value. And what we're trying to achieve as realtors here and people that are guiding our clients and investors, what we're trying to achieve here is obviously representing them well, but it's identifying and creating value. We want to bring value to our clients so they feel our worth. We are the experts in the field, and it's important that we understand the zoning, even if it's a single family home and the client has no intentions of themselves increasing the density. I think it's important to identify the zone to a client or buyer, letting them know, hey, I know you just want to use this as a single family, but it's actually zoned R4. So if you ever in the future go to sell it, it's got potential value. Or identifying these, I think, is a part of our job. But I also think that not a lot of realtors do it well. So it's a way to set ourselves apart by, knowing how to quickly check a zone and check its uses. Here in the city of Ottawa, that is Geo Warehouse is our, excuse me, Geo Ottawa is our municipality's GIS mapping system that will allow us to quickly go in, identify a property, check its zone, link to the zoning bylaw, and identify everything that can and cannot be done within that zone. Everything from whether a business can be done there, parking requirements, future development potential. All of this is identified within the fabric of the zoning bylaws that govern the property, that we should be able to just quickly check. And even though it's easier in a large municipality like Ottawa, Toronto, Kingston, because you can go on their very well organized mapping systems for the city. The smaller communities also have systems in place for you to be able to understand the zoning. If you're in let's say North Grenville, it's not quite as simple as clicking on a digital mapping system and going right to the zone and the bylaw with one link. But it is relatively simple. There will be maps digitally available on the North Grenville site, or any smaller community that is organized. You can see the map. You can at least look at the different areas of zoning and should be able to identify what your subject property is zoned, and then you can cross-reference that, go back to the municipalities, their main planning page, and actually read the bylaw, and it will be an official plan or the zoning bylaw, and that you'll search for your particular zone. And it's a little bit more work to find it manually, but if you commit to doing it within a few minutes, 5 minutes, you should be able to identify what a property's zone is, and read through the fabric of the zoning bylaw and understand what you can do in it. There's different tricks like you can control F for I think probably Mac and Microsoft users. You can do a control F and do a word search for the particular zoning name, and that should bring you to it. So you don't have to read 200 pages of bylaw text. Um, and if you have any questions, I can't stress this enough, contact the municipality. Contact the municipalities, get a hold of their planning department or their zoning department. They are there to answer questions on properties. So you can let them know, who you are, whether you're representing a client or not. You're inquiring about a particular property and its zone, and they'll be able to tell you what the property's zoned and probably give you a link to the zoning code or all of its parameters. So it's a slight bit more work to do that. You might have to leave a message for the planning department and they'll call you back the next day. It might not be instant, but I believe it's imperative that you do it. And when you go that extra mile, it really goes a long way for representing our clients and making sure that they understand that we've got their best interest in mind and we're doing everything we can to identify the value of these properties. So I think that's I say it's going the extra mile, but I really think it's imperative. I check every zoning on a property that I'm looking at, certainly transacting. And it's important to fact check through these methods. Some big red flags are when a realtor that is representing a property that we're buying, or even maybe an unrepresented property. We're talking directly to an owner, and the owner says, "Oh, well, it used to be a duplex, so it can be a duplex. So it's a single family now, but it used to be a duplex, so you can put another unit here if you want." Um, this is hearsay, in my opinion. We have to do our fact checking. We have to do our best, anyways, in order to, uh, try to find the uh, I guess the answer is try to find the reality of what the zoning and the permissions are for a particular property. And if we've done our due diligence and um, documented our sources. I take notes on the properties that I'm looking at, or if we've sent an email to our client, giving them our as much information as we can find on the property. Nobody's going to be able to if there's a complaint on you ever, if somebody purchases a property and it happens to not be able to, they're not allowed or they're not able to put what they want on it, they can't come back at you for negligence. We have errors and omissions insurance. If we make an error, that's one thing that you know. uh, But if we can prove that we've tried and done our best to identify allowable uses and zoning, we're going to be much better off, and nobody will be able to fault us for um, you know doing our best, and that's I think it's important to keep track of these things. Email's a great way. It's to keep things in our history. If you've got a property, I often send the zoning code in an email to a buyer or a seller. Might have a screenshot of the mapping system that I've found it. Uh, that can come along with a host of all sorts of other things that are related to zoning, but also the environment, whether there's floodplain. Different zones exist specifically for protected lands, and that's another big part of the zoning that we want to make sure that lands that we're purchasing are not protected in a way that we can't do anything with it or build something there. And there's nothing worse than buying a property for somebody, haven't done the zoning, and they go to build and they realize that hey, I bought this 10-acre property in the country, but I'm only allowed to build on a half an acre of it way up at the front of the road, and or they can't build anything at all. So it's our job to find those scenarios and make sure we're protecting our people. Um, so these understanding this, and it's possibly the biggest part of it is creating potential. Um, there's all sorts of people out there, investors, builders, um, people, even if it's just their primary home, but they understand their home is an investment. They're looking to maximize their potential and finding properties that have a higher and better use, or a current use that's got upside and potential. We're actually creating value for people. You know, it's creating opportunity, making sure the right people that are involved that we're representing understand what they can do with a property, and understanding what its highest in potential is, whether that's future development land. Um, if an investor or a builder asks us about a particular property, and we can tell them the density that's allowable, the height restrictions, and the um, gross floor area or the lot coverage, they can take that and quickly calculate how many units that they can put on a property, turn around and give an educated guess of the value that it will bring to them, and you're going to save them some time and energy, and they're going to see value in you and continue to use you to help them find properties. So I think zoning is a cornerstone of real estate, and it's something that we should all know like the back of our hands. And so uh, hopefully this discussion, a lot of you I know have an understanding of it, but I'm hoping that it creates some thought process onto how else you can use zoning to further your business and further your clients. Does anybody have an example of a zoning topic that they've come across that would be good to discuss, or maybe a question about um, a particular zone, or how it may change or influence value?
Um, I have um I have a friend who owns a property near Carleton University, and it went from, I think it was R1, now it's just R1F. So I guess it's just a matter of looking at what it says now, like what's the new what are the changes with the new zoning um like prescriptions, I don't know how to call that. But so I'm guessing it matters, like let's say if it's a corner lot and then it has, instead of 50 frontage, it has 60 frontage. Would that then affect what can be done within that zoning code?
Yes. Did you say the frontage changed?
No, no, frontage is the same. It's 60, so 60 feet,
Yeah.
60 by 100, and it's a corner.
Yeah.
So, like,
The particular fabric of what can be done with that lot will be found within the zoning for sure. Uh,
okay.
the zoning change. Okay, I'm going to pull an audible here, and I'm going to. Um, I, so let's, for the remainder, just have general discussion. I'm going to share my screen, and um, bear with me. I'm going to show you guys how we find um, the new zoning regulations. Okay, so let, for those of you who, I'm not sure if some of you, if everybody's from Ottawa, I know most of you are, but this is basically the within the city of Ottawa, their new the new there is a new zoning bylaw. Okay, it's effective. Does it have the date there? It's 2026. This has been adopted. Okay, this is a really really important topic for Ottawa right now.
I have to step out, but I'm gonna continue listening. Just can't talk
Okay,
right now, okay?
sounds good. This is being recorded
Thanks.
too, so you can come back to it. Um,
All right. Thanks.
but this is there is a new zoning bylaw in Ottawa, and there are new provisions for every property within the district. So you can just go to the City of Ottawa's website. I've got it, you know, linked with a favorites on my list. I run all my real estate with some favorite pages for different zoning maps and things that I need to access quickly, which is a good trick to be doing things quickly. But right here is the interactive map um, with the new bylaw. Okay, it's not part of Geo Ottawa yet, even though Geo well, I shouldn't say that. Geo Ottawa does have links to um, the new bylaws. Okay, I'll open that up and show you how that looks as well. If you here's um, here's the City of Ottawa's mapping system. If you click on the layers under zoning and drop down, uh, oh, sorry, maybe it's under zoning resources. Here's the new draft, and you can toggle that on. You can toggle those this current zoning and the new one on and off, and get an understanding of what the new zones will be. Let's just take a property over here, for instance. The current zone is VM 666R. The new zone, I'm not entirely sure if the code has changed yet. You might have to go to the legend and look at the color and cross-reference it. So this looks like it's village mixed use VM. So this particular property looks like it's stayed the same, but there's all sorts of properties that are changing. So this is one way to do it in Geo Ottawa. If we go to the a similar system, but within the City of Ottawa's page, this is their interactive map. It's still loading here, but they're working on this all the time, so it's changing quite readily. And you'll see, and what you'll be able to do is look at the current zone and also what that zone is going to that has now become with the new system. So for some odd reason, um, looks like this part of the map isn't populating the zone right now, but it will. I think it's still thinking. But on the right side, there's usually um, that's usually the new zone, and it'll quickly identify different colors. Let's oh, display existing on the left side and the final draft on the right. I think it's still populating the final draft on the right thing. Anyway, I don't want to waste your time with it loading here, but basically both sides of this interactive map are going to show the current versus um, the new the new zone, and it's a great tool for us to use to understand both. And within here, you'll see drafts of the new bylaw and what each zone means, its specific uses, and um, how the fabric of each zone is changing. Final draft. Anyway, so I apologize. It's seems like it's loading and taking quite a while, but that's a good way to find out what the zone is. I don't think Geo Ottawa has yet linked um, the new zones to the bylaw text just yet. As of now, you can just um, click on a property in a zone and go right to the bylaw text. This is some open space that we just clicked on OA. You can just link right R1M. You can link right to the
It
bylaw
won't be open
text.
space for long.
What's that?
I said that won't be open space for long. I think that's
No,
Canada.
it is Canada Lakes. Yeah, you're right. They're they're putting houses on it. They've officially closed it down and they're doing some digging right now. How you doing, Scott?
Good, you?
Good, thanks.
I think it's
Just
what Minto and Richcraft going in there.
believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know? I've got a question for you actually. Up until October 3rd, you were able to give feedback on, like, if you had a property that uh, you wanted to request a certain zone as things were shifting to this new draft plan.
Yeah.
Do you know if they extended that or
I
if
I
that
don't know
update
that
remained October 3rd?
I don't know if they've extended it. I know that there are appeals. The appeal period for that zone is, I believe it's September now, unless they've changed it to October. But there is an appeal period for the zones that
Implementing,
they're
whatever?
suggesting or they're adopting. So if you have a property and the zone is changing, you have until September to appeal. Or I guess if there's if you own a property in the neighboring use or something surrounding you, you want to have input into what's happening. I believe the appeal period is until September. So right
Okay.
now, that zone has been adopted, so to speak, and all those uses have been adopted, but they will still change, until the final appeal period is over. And that's my understanding is September. Right now, I'm lobbying. We as Metro City are lobbying to OREA to then in turn have OREA lobby to the municipality of Ottawa, the city of Ottawa, to give us a seminar on this new zone, uh, because it's tough to find the information. It's if you talk to two different planners at the city, they're going to give you two different answers. Things are changing rapidly right now, so we're lobbying for the city of Ottawa to give members of the Ontario Real Estate Association or the Ottawa Board, anyways, some type of a seminar or learning exercise, understanding the zone, because it affects us all, and right now zones are changing rapidly, and it's hard for people to really that affects value. It's affecting purchases and sales right now. Builders, let's say somebody's wanting to build something, but they don't know what zone is going to be adopted before September. That's really going to leave some uncertainty with purchasing. They're going to, some people are going to go out on a limb and, have faith that the right zone that they require to do what they want is going to be adopted. So it's important for us to pay attention to that right now for sure.
Well, it could even be for like if you're representing a seller and you're not in the know of a zoning change coming for that property, you might be undervaluing the property, right?
Absolutely. Okay, so here, check this. This looks like it's working a bit better. So the existing zoning is on the left and the new zone is on the right. So if we look at the right side here, I think there's a way for me to blow this up, but I don't want to have it reload. Okay, so on the right here, this is a good example. This is Smythe, Pleasant Park, and Kilbourne and Heron. If you look at these existing zones right now, residential, residential, residential. I'll zoom in a little bit so everybody can see this. Okay. We're right now on Smythe, Pleasant Park, Kilbourne, and Heron. These are great examples. On the left, that's the current zone. I'm going to slide the right over, and you're going to see all of that change to commercial.
Holy shit.
So those, you see how it's purple now along Pleasant Park. I know just from doing this before that purple is a commercial zone, and those residential houses are going to go from residential to now those streets can do actual commercial. And I'm not talking just a house. Like you can knock down a house and put a full on commercial plaza on the front of Pleasant Park and Smythe and Kilbourne and Heron in those areas.
So is that like an AM zoning, or is
What's that?
that like a arterial main street kind of thing?
It's actually straight up commercial. CM2.
Oh,
So
holy
I
shit.
just clicked on a property and you'll see its current zone is R1G. Okay. And its future zone is CM2. So R1G, this is a residential first density zone, which you can probably do a single, we can click to the bylaw text here. Okay, you can do a single family home. This G, will determine size and setbacks and the different things allowable. But R1 is very likely single family home with a secondary dwelling unit. So, but now straight CM2 will click to the link of the zone that they're adopting and proposing here. You'll see CM2. We'll have to search for it a bit, but this CM2 zone, we go straight to the permitted uses. Dwelling unit is still permitted, but now the permitted uses for commercial, animal care, art studio, automobile service station is a permitted use. Bank, car wash, catering, community center, courthouse, daycare, drive-through facility, emergency services, funeral home, gas bar, hotel. So this is a residential neighborhood currently that all of a sudden a medical facility, museum, office, place of assembly, place of worship, restaurant, retail, school, storefront industry, all of these new uses are permitted right in that residential neighborhood. And I know Pleasant Park and Kilbourne, like these are busier type streets, but as of right now, they're straight residential, and that this new use is got them changing to actual commercial. So a lot of people think that the zoning changes in the Ottawa area right now, they're just changing the names of the zones to reflect different things or maybe add slight density, but they're doing a lot more than that. It's changing in a big way. Having a property along those streets that go from residential to now a different permitted use for all those different things. It's changing values, and it's creating real value, but you have to be careful too. It may create negative value in some cases. You might have a residential area that these homes are worth, I don't know, let's just say a home's worth $1 million. And now all of a sudden it's the use has changed to commercial where the residential value is being affected negatively because now people, don't want to live on a busier main street right next to a gas station. There's some areas, they're going to create negative value. Now they're not, changing the zones to try to create negative value. Zones and planning is done, often for the greater good of the community. They're, forecasting different uses and different planning scenarios to better the community, but it's not going to affect every property the same. Some properties will be, it'll be welcomed, and other areas, residents will be upset by, different changes.
And
That
that community is a perfect example, I think, of people being upset because it's higher priced homes kind of thing where I think some people are going to be concerned about that density, you know?
Yeah, yeah. If you've got a pretty big lot right now and $1 million plus home, and all of a sudden you've got, a gas station, and they're changing, a place of assembly. Somebody might come in, purchase one of those homes and put, a place of assembly on it. There's no parking for people to come and worship or whatever they're doing. Scenarios will arise that conflict with the current use, and that'll, in the meantime, might put negative pressure on some of those properties. Yeah, I'm not saying all of those properties will be negatively affected, because the inverse could be true. You could have a big, lot or a double lot right on the main street, and somebody comes along, and you're only worth $1 million as a house right now, but some developer comes along and says, "Hey, to me, your property's worth 1.5 million because I can put an apartment building on it, or an office building, or what have you." So it's not a blanket statement that we can say property value will be increase or decrease necessarily. We have to look at every property case by case, and investigate, and do our best to try to understand what kind of pressures are going to be put on the property, what kind of support there is in the community for, the zone. And anyway, so that's I think a great real world example of how zones change. Their zoning is not permanent, and it fluctuates based on different uses, and it grows over time with a community. There's some areas in the city, that in any city, that maybe used to be used for industrial, manufacturing, and over time the city, has grown around it or over it, and now, that the value of that land is the higher and better value is for residential, because they're not manufacturing there anymore, or what have you. So the fabric of a city and municipalities are ever changing, and it's important for us to understand the relationships between the different zones. A great example is residential and industrial. They're the opposite ends of the spectrum. Industrial, heavy industrial, certainly, is a there's a use on the land that allows for more contamination and noise, and that doesn't necessarily marry well with a neighboring property that's residential. Those are both ends of the spectrum. An industrial property, being used to manufacture, and a residential home where people want quiet enjoyment, and clean air and clean water, and don't want their kids, you know, playing in oil or dangerous scenarios. So they often try to separate industrial areas and residential areas. They might have a buffer zone, which is commercial, might have industrial, and then surrounding it might be business parks, office, or commercial, and then residential on this, on, further away. There's a lot more mixed use happening these days. And so the very fabric of how cities operate, is certainly changing. This is a great example where this used to all be residential, and now it's commercial, residential, mixed use within the same properties. So understanding these different zones, how they how they affect value, and how the different permitted uses affect each other's the other zones, and people's enjoyment of the use of their properties is key in my opinion, and I encourage you all to take more time to do this. I love having these discussions. You guys, most of you can reach out anytime, and have a discussion. I'm always learning as well, and I encourage you guys to all be doing the same. I think it's the cornerstone of our business is things are ever changing, and it's on us to be growing with it, and constantly gaining new knowledge, and conversely bringing that value to our clients. So, does anybody else have any discussion topics to be had revolving around zoning, or any other questions?
Chris, with the app that you've got pulled up, like through City of Ottawa, can you punch in like a specific address, or does it
You
not?
can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can punch in. Do you have an address for us?
Uh,
Or are you hiding it
sure.
from us because it's good
No,
value?
no. Go 1171 Old Montreal Road. I just didn't know if there was an address because I've always used Geo. So
This is going to become part of Geo Ottawa.
yeah.
This is I would assume that this is a layer that they're working on in the background, um, and it will become, I assume, one of the layers, the new zoning layer in the Geo Ottawa, once it's adopted. All right, so the current zone for this subject property is RR7. Um, we can go to RR, which is rural residential, which has detached dwelling, retirement home, pretty standard, bed and breakfast, pretty standard uses for rural residential. If we go down to 7, we can see, different minimum lot widths, front yard setbacks, lot coverage, 15%, things of that nature. The new zone that they are proposing for this is NU, new zoning, neighborhood unserviced zone. Where is this?
There's that the blue area
We're
beside
in
it. That's
or
the
we're in Orleans.
yes, the Tamarack development.
Okay.
So Famille Laporte and Old Montreal. So like across Old Montreal, uh, not Phoenix. Yeah, Phoenix Homes has something planned, and behind it's a retirement home that's pretty much built. So, so this is an example of where a developer told me that we could give feedback on the zone, and like you said, sort of like contest the zone and suggest a different zone that I guess makes more sense with what's being done around it.
Yeah. I've
I
confused.
don't know if NU is sort of like a development reserve.
Well, let's find out. Neighborhood unserviced zone. It's taking me a little bit of time to figure out, but this is what it is. Okay. So the purpose of the NU zone, which we know used to be RR in this case, uh, permit a maximum of 2 dwelling units plus 1 additional dwelling unit per lot area designated as neighborhood in the official plan. So one detached dwelling unit plus 1 additional dwelling unit per lot. Recognize the existing lot and development pattern in these neighborhoods while also restricting creation of new lot sizes that may not be sufficient to accommodate private services. Unserviced zone, the following use is permitted: dwelling unit, maximum of 2 dwelling units, a coach house, So it doesn't look like they're, within that provision, they're changing um, the zone quite heavily. They don't even really make mention to some of the other more commercial uses home-based business or I forgot what some of the other ones were, but there was hospitality with bed and breakfast. They don't really make mention to that. Um, but the minimum lot area will be the same as the existing. There's your setbacks, maximum coverage, where there's connected water services is 25, and in all other cases it's 15. So this doesn't really tell me too much is changing in this particular zone, but as Scott mentioned, right now there's an appeal period, and this is a good time for the current owner of this or a prospective buyer to go to the city and lobby for that use to change without having to, file a rezoning application or a zoning amendment, which is a very costly, lengthy process. If you wanted to change the current zone without this happening, if you wanted to change the current RR7 zone to a different zone, you have to put in a zoning application, zoning amendment, and these zoning applications are of the most strict, stringent applications that you can put in with the city. They're public process. So if you want to put a zoning application in, you're going to have to do all sorts of, research and studies to back up why you think a zone should change. But in this particular instance, people can lobby for zones to be amended or, with these new zones that are being adopted, people can lobby to do so without a full zoning application. They may still require you to do some research if you are trying to change the zone heavily. But I certainly encourage discussion with the cities, whether it's prospective buyers or current owners or us representatives. Absolutely, now's the time. And the city's just swamped right now with this zoning provision. All the planners are doing the same. So it's slowing down a lot of the other regular progress, of the city. So it's a zoning is a hot topic right now for sure, and it's one that we should understand. So if anybody else have anything last minute to discuss, I want to make sure that our timing is being minded. So we're about to getting towards the end. If nobody has anything else, I can wrap it up here.
I'll mute myself, but I just wanted to kind of check out this, and I don't have any questions about things here.
Sounds good. Thanks for joining, Scott. And as always, you guys can get a hold of me anytime at Northern Alliance. We're a, a big family, and we enjoy collaboration. And feel free to reach out at any time, and love to hear from you. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon. Have a great day, everyone.